في النهاية أهم شيء إنه عملنا ريدكشن للمياه الفاقدة خلال البروسيس الخاصة بمحطات التناحل العكسي. يعطيكم ألف عافية. شكرا للجميع على حسن استماعهم. Thanks a lot for your good listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you for respecting the time. Since I'll take just a few questions before we continue with the second half of the session. So if you have any questions, I can take a few questions. Yes, please, you can state your name and who's your question to. Maybe just wait for the microphone.
I thought we were not that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just for
My
the
name is
translation.
Nina Redkes, and I'm addressing the desalination issue.
Yes.
And it might be a more general question because I like the workout you did there. It's a really nice way to save the water in the process. But from my perspective, we do have a problem with our brine in general. So I'm curious what you think about that, because the more we desalinate, the more we have brine. And if we calculate the amount of salt that amounts there, if you only take like a look at a small resort like this one, what it takes and what the output in terms of salt will be, and what that might do to nature, then we do have an issue there. And so I would be really curious what you as an expert in that field think about that, because I think desalination is one way to go for this area here, and still we do produce a problem as well. Yeah, that's my question.
Okay, any other questions? That's it. Okay, so we'll take that question and move on to the second half of the session.
Okay, this is the factor of RO system. We have product and we have reject. We need to increase the performance of the RO system and to reduce the brine. But at the end, we have a brine water and we cannot do anything with this one unless we have to evaporate it or... Okay, there is a zero liquid discharge systems, but it's very costly. You can get a zero liquid discharge systems without any, just salt, only solid salts. But this, it will be huge cost. We are now talking about the 15 or 20% of water throwing with a very high level of salt or sometimes radiation. So we have to think in the future about any technology that we can, because it's 20%. It's not a small amount. If there is any technology in the future can introduce a good or a visibility to treat this type of water, it will be very nice. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I guess this is a very important issue, as you said, in a water scarce region that's depending more and more on desalination and the brine coming out and its effect on the environment. So we move on with another resource which is very important for the region in this water scarce region, and many countries are depending again more and more on groundwater and deep groundwater and fossil groundwater. So we have next presentation is on the development of groundwater resources of Jordan from 1995 to present. It's going to be co-presented with Rebecca Balls from BGR. She has been with BGR since 2010 and working in Jordan since 2016, and also Razan Raoud, right? Please, if you can.
Good afternoon. We will talk about the development of the groundwater resource of Jordan from 1995 to the present. At first, why it's important to talk about the improvement of the groundwater in Jordan? because Jordan, the water in Jordan is very limited, and it's rated as second on the list of the water-poorest country. And from Jordan naturally position, it has a very low precipitation and high evaporation. So natural Jordan is mainly depending on the groundwater to serve the need of the water supply. So the natural recharge is very low, but the demand on the groundwater is continuously increasing because of the agriculture, industrial population growth. Here, the general situation in Jordan is that the demand on the groundwater is continuously increasing in all areas, but the availability is and the groundwater is continuously decreasing. And that is us an alarming situation to know, and for the decision maker to know the actual groundwater situation in Jordan. And that's what my colleague will explain. Thank you.
Thank you, Razan, and welcome also from my side. Yeah, the groundwater situation in Jordan is very challenging. You've seen we have a continuously increasing demand and at the same time a continuously decreasing availability in water. Decision makers now really need to know what is the actual situation. But the last nationwide study was done in the 1990s, and that is why now, thank you, is why now the BGR together with the Ministry of Water and Irrigation here in Jordan has conducted this new nationwide inventory for the different aquifers. Today we will talk about the main aquifer, the A7B2 limestone aquifer. We started with collecting new monitoring data all over Jordan, and additionally we also collected data in pumping wells which were turned off during maintenance. We did analysis, a quality control of all the available data, the newly collected one, but also the historical data. And additionally we had differential GPS measurement campaign to really get precise elevation information for all the monitoring location we've used. Here you can see now the outcrop and the subcrop distribution of the A7B2 aquifer and all our monitoring points. And this is now the resulting groundwater contour level map for October 2017. Interesting here is the area or the flow direction in this area here in the north. Remembering now that all the previous studies were always based on the 1995 study, we can see here now a flow direction from Asraq going towards the northwest. In 1995, the situation was very different. The water from all directions was flowing towards the Asraq oasis. And in a similar area, a little bit, and now it's changed by 180 degrees due to over-exploitation of the groundwater. And a little bit further north, you can see the same. In 1995, the water was entering Jordan from Syria, flowing through Jordan towards the west, northwest. But now we have the development of a regional drawdown cone. Due to this really over-abstraction of groundwater in this region, mainly for irrigation, there cannot be any natural groundwater flow found in the northern part of Jordan. So it's really an alarming situation. And the comparison from 1995 to 2017 here shows that all of Jordan, or the A7B2 aquifer all over Jordan, is affected by a drawdown of at least 50 to 100 meters over the last 22 years. You have in the very northern part, Wadi al-Arab, where you have a drawdown of 170 meters from 1995 to now. Here we can see now a few monitoring wells with the yearly drawdown, and yes, 4.5 meters, 8.3 meters, and in the northern part the same. So it's a really critical situation with a continuous increase in drawdown. What does it mean? We are assuming here we're having a safe yield of 280 million cubic meters a year. But we know the water level is going down, so we are obviously abstracting more than there is. But how much more do we really over-abstract? There you have different assumptions. Of course, some people want to say, it's just a little bit, or double, or triple, so you have different numbers. But based on those really relatively simple estimation, we can say that using the most optimistic hydraulic properties, the over-abstraction is at least double the amount of the self-yield. And to give you an idea of what that really is, you have here an Olympic swimming pool, and the volume of the water in minimum 100,000 of those pools is over-abstracted yearly. And this is really the most optimistic approach. Most probably it's up to 5 times higher. So you can imagine every year this amount of water is over-abstracted. So that makes really sense why the situation is getting more and more critical. You can see that also in the areas, or in the unsaturated areas. The red part, the green part is the area in 1995 where the water, or the A72 was already unsaturated. And now in 2017 that area has tripled. It's really a huge expansion. And the areas where you can still abstract water is of course getting smaller and smaller. Thinking about how the situation has developed, it will not take another 22 years for this area to triple. So again, this really shows you how critical the situation is here in Jordan right now. Another point is, of course, you have the drawdown map, and you have then the information of all the wells. Of course, where the wells are, there's also the highest drawdown. So that means all those wells will be affected in the future. These are additional costs. The wells have to be deepened, the riser lanes have to be extended, you have to change the pump. Sometimes you can't deepen the well because the pump won't fit, then the well is lost, you need to drill a new well. So these are a lot of additional costs, also considering the energy. As deeper you go, as more energy you need. And as well, the water quality is decreasing with time. But another interesting factor in this map, or in this comparison, is when you see in the very north, you see that really red area. But on the other map, you see there are not really a lot of wells. And when you look then on satellite images, you still see there is quite a lot of irrigated area. So the illegal wells here in Jordan are really also a big problem, but I think some projects are already dealing with this. But this is just a nice comparison. Easily you can see really where the problems here. So then how can we improve the groundwater situation in Jordan? Yeah, we can start firsthand with to assess the illegal groundwater abstraction. Then of course public awareness in all kinds of levels. Many people here think, farmers, that underneath there's a lake of water and Jordan has a lot of water. So if people don't know really how bad the situation is, you cannot really get them to change their idea or their thinking. Then of course save water. You can start with improving different with water-saving irrigation methods, or you can change your crop to a crop which is less water demanding. Or you really identify and then reform the subsidies for the groundwater abstraction. Really go in and change the electricity costs for pumping wells as one of the examples. Thank you.
One point. You discussed the costs of digging deeper, getting new pumps, and so on, and you said with time the water quality decreases. What did you mean by that?
As deeper you go, you have already here a lot of problems. A lot of well fields, they have already little treatment plants. You have an increase in salinity in the water.
So it's not with time, it's with depth.
Yeah, no, yes, with depth.
Not
You're
with
right.
time.
No, not with time. With time
So
you
with
go down.
depth, the water
Yes.
quality will decrease because of salination.
Yes, one of the things.
Yeah.
I think I heard about a new project to go deeper up to 1,200 meters here in Jordan. So what next?
Yeah, they are not really.
What next? Is this decision the right decision now to go deeper for 1,200 meter depth? And after that, what will be the situation? From where we will get water for the future?
That's our problem.
That is a good question. I mean, you have a DC one hand, but A72 aquifer, you have it still in. You still have water, but as you said, it's dipping down, and you need to really drill deep to reach it. Now there are a few projects because it's under confined situation. Once you tip the aquifer, the pump lift won't be 1,200 meters, but still these are huge costs coming. But if you just look at A7B2 and you have some estimations combine different parameters, you have two areas in Jordan which are somewhat acceptable for a new well field. And this is the main aquifer. Then you have no other option to go deeper, or you really go into desalination, or you start to save water, you stop your irrigation in the desert.
From my point of view, I would prefer to go to desalination, to the sea first. Keep the aquifers here
Yeah,
for
of
the
course.
next generation.
But you know the issue with the Red Sea Dead Sea project.
But now I think this is the last. I think this is maybe the last project. If we go for this water, then after that we will not have any water inside the country. We have to go to the sea.
Yeah, this is why we did the study, to
Okay.
really show the decision makers here.
The decision
where the
makers
situation
should
is.
stop digging more wells. They should not go further deep.
Yeah, but it's surprising how thankful they were for the informations, because you always have a loose idea, but also decision makers need concrete information, not always, yeah, we have no water, it's going down, yeah, but now they can at least see it is really going down, and how is the development. You can do some assumptions how it will be in the future, and it's not good. Sorry.
If I could let's open the floor just to a few more questions, and then we'll get to a few. Yes, please go ahead. Mike?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عثمان المشاقبي from Royal Scientific Society. You have shown us one of your slides about the direction of the groundwater, sometimes from the north to the south, and sometimes the opposite. So can you explain for us what the impact of the current situation, the political situation in Syria, especially in the north? We have this Yarmouk aquifer, and this is sharing aquifer. So what the impact of the political situation in Syria on the direction of the groundwater in that area?
The groundwater flow direction is a comparison. How was the situation in 1995 here? How it was in 1995 and how it is. It shows how was the situation in 1995, and it shows how is the situation now. The situation actually has changed already in 2012, so it has nothing to do with the Syrian conflict. It is purely due to over-abstraction on the Jordanian side to irrigate farms in the desert area.
2 years ago, I was in Geneva in the water hub, and they shown us this case study about the water consumption in the Syrian side during this the last 5-6 years. It was like at the minimal quantity, and this has reflected in the basic flow in the Yarmouk River, as well like Jordan getting more water coming from that river.
For this area, yes, but here for the A7B2, for the aquifer there, we can just see the the water saved on the Syrian side is easily over abstracted on the Jordanian side, unfortunately. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that interesting presentation. I guess the next presentation will also touch on the Syrian crisis and its effect on the water resources in many of the different countries. I'm just trying to pull out the agenda again. There we go. Yeah, so the Syrian crisis and the conflict in the region have affected water scarcity a lot. And they've not only affected the countries under conflict, but the neighboring countries like Jordan, like Lebanon, like Iraq. They've all been affected by the influx of refugees, and these are already water scarce countries that have to deal with this. So this next presentation will look at assessing and mapping the impact of the Syrian crisis on water scarcity levels in Jordan using the Water Poverty Index. Ms. Ayat Abdel Karim Saimi from the Royal Scientific Society of Jordan will present this. She has an MS of Civil Engineering, Water and Environment Engineering, with 8 years experience as Senior Studies Specialist in Water and Environment at the Royal Scientific Society. She is involved in implementing studies, consultation and research in the field of water quality monitoring and assessment, integrated water resources management.